from the New York Post. Hundreds of Canadian steelworkers hit with layoffs as Trump's tariffs squeeze the industry. How's it going, Canada? What are you going to do about it? You do not get our business for free. That's just it. If the Canadians came out and they were just like, Trump, your tariffs are totally fine, thank you and have a nice day, I would have been like, that was very honorable. Instead, they got all hissy and pissy, threatened to cut off our electricity to the areas that use electricity, in the northeast part of the country, and they wanted to make it a big thing. They were slighted, as if they deserve our business. Well, this is what you get, Canada. This is what I've been talking about. So we've got at least 200 Canadian members of the United Steelworkers, North America's largest private sector union, lost their jobs thus far, according to Marty Warren, the group's national director. And Canadian companies have not been shy about placing the blame on Trump's stiff tariffs, a 25% levy imposed on all steel and aluminum imports. I'm going to say this. I feel bad for anybody who loses their job, but Canada, if you lost your job because you were dependent upon American business, that was a mistake on your country's part to put everything on the line in terms of an international negotiation. You had no guarantees. And the American people have been exploited and are fed up. And they said, we're not interested in this anymore. We need to manufacture our own steel, our own aluminum. So why would we give those jobs to Canada? Now you guys have no jobs anymore. That was you getting sold out. This is Trump correcting and taking care of his own people. Maybe your country should do the same for you.
And he's doing this in part, not because just of steel and aluminum, it's over the dairy tariffs, something like 260% in Canada that they're marking up if you want to sell milk, apparently. And the way we can get them is getting them with something they want to sell here in the U.S. What I don't get is, what's so controversial about that here in America? It's not as though we're rolling in dough. We have a deficit and a debt and so many needs going on here. To say that we deserve to make sure that we're doing the best economically for our people and we're doing these reciprocal tariffs or inviting businesses to do more manufacturing here, what's controversial about that?
I think people don't understand the level of debt. I think it's just kind of like the wool's been pulled over most people. Like most people don't know there's a U.S. debt clock where you can watch the 36 trillion just go up, up, up. And we've over 100 years, well, actually since 1949 CIA after World War II, they basically created America as the tit for everyone else to get their milk from, and no, in the British Empire, like in this whole Five Eyes organization, and we basically, it's just been accepted, and people have now become accustomed to it. What's that?
Do you know why?
Well, the Federal Reserve was very easy to siphon money.
No. I mean, you mentioned after World War II. Do you know why the United States kind of became like...
Because it was the strongest military?
Because it was because of nuclear non-proliferation. Because the nuclear arms race, the United States didn't want to see every country in Europe all getting nuclear missiles, because that would make a higher percentage chance of a nuclear war happening. Yep. So the U.S. said, look, if you don't go after a nuclear arms program, we will protect you. That's the whole point of NATO. So it wasn't like I mean, I know you talk about like the global economic order and stuff like that, but it was, the most of it was, we don't want the world to blow itself up because of nuclear weapons.
That was, I think, the American military aspect of the situation. But
NATO.
The economic aspect was they made America like the bank for all these other Commonwealth countries.
The economic aspect came after.
It was called the liberal economic order.
But
is what they created.
It came after NATO. NATO came first. They started building bases. They said, look, don't develop nuclear weapons. We'll build bases. We'll protect you. We will take care of you to make sure we'll defend you from the Russians. And the response after that was, then you had economic interest. You had companies deciding, okay, well, we can go into these places because they're secure, because the United States military protects them.
But also, Canada now gets a huge discount from this country as it's being siphoned off. And one, if they violate NATO, they don't no longer get the American money. So there's all these incentives to stay on board with this ethos of the liberal economic order, and you're going to keep getting money. And Trump comes in and he's like, I'm done with this. We're not.
Let me just give you a simple argument on the tariffs thing. Donald Trump says to Canada, very simply, we think our business is worth more. Instantly, they lay off 200 workers. I think that shows that there was an incongruence between the markets, Canada and the United States, and then they were getting a freebie off us. If Donald Trump can go and say, we're going to charge you to sell your product in our country and that destroys your business, I think that just says it was an unfair arrangement from the get-go. If the market actually made sense, you'd be like, okay. But the reality was America doesn't need it. And so I'll put it this way. Donald Trump wants American steel back. The Steelers in Pittsburgh. Remember that? There's no steel in Pittsburgh anymore. Maybe a little bit. Trump wants to bring those jobs back and give Americans good lives. We sold it off at a discount rate to China. I'm sorry, to China and Canada. And Trump just said, you're going to have to pay more. And instantly they're out of business. We were getting ripped off.
Well, here's something just in simple terms. We've had leaders that for decades have been telling us, the American public, as we're rowing a kayak toward a waterfall, that we're never going to hit the waterfall. And we're just gliding that way, and no one has the strength or the ability to explain to the public or the desire that hard things need to be done so that bigger things can happen. And the reason is they're all getting paid. Republicans and Democrats alike are getting the donations from the industries to make sure they don't do these things. And it never gives you votes hardly if you
in
cut
fact,
spending.
it costs you votes because if you say no, we really do need to do something about our deficit and deficit spending, then you end up with people saying, "Oh, look, they want a real throw grandma off a cliff." The Paul
and
Ryan.
It takes a lot
commercial.
of morality on the part of a political figure, and not just short-term thinking, of course, but they have to think short-term in a way because they have to get elected every 2 years. 4 years, 6 years, or whatnot. So,
yep. No, I think the problem for this country is that if you were to be honest in politics, you'd lose in 2 seconds. You'd go up and you'd say something like, "Guys, if we continue at this economic rate, we are going to be bankrupt. This country will collapse. We need harsh economic reforms. This is going to lower the GDP by X amount of percent for the first 2 years. After that, we'll see stability. After that, we may see a recovery." People are going to say, "Nope, don't do it." Because most people would rather say, give me the short-term gain. I don't care about the long-term.
That's what this is in Canada, too. This entanglement of trade that we've found ourselves in is being disentangled. And the result is people are dependent on it. Like normal people that don't think about politics, they're just used to going in and making steel. And now they're losing their... So there is like this short-term, and this is what short-term pain literally is people losing jobs.
Do we have any
These are Canadians.
steel
I don't care.
manufacturers in the U.S.?
I mean, I generally care about humanity in general. And like if we have international entanglements, like that is we're somewhat responsible for. I care, but I care, long term, we have to think at least 20 years ahead if we're talking about economy.
There are indeed.
Yeah, okay.
There's U.S. Steel, there's Cleveland Cliffs, Steel Dynamics, CMC, Gerdau, North America, JW. There's a lot. There's a lot of steel companies.
I read somewhere that a lot of the steel manufacturers left the United States, and I'm not sure where I heard.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these companies are actually just importing from Canada or China or Mexico. And so they're American companies, but they outsource the manufacturing somewhere else and distribute through the United States, which is short-term gain, long-term losses. But here's the best
almost
part.
like we don't even need them, but we've been doing them a favor by buying their stuff, at an elevated rate at the expense of our own people under the idea that we need to help.
Full on siphoning American money to the British Empire, man. I can't stand it.
The funniest thing about this is the left should be cheering Trump on, 100%, because the outsourcing of jobs, and they used to. Remember the battle in Seattle? Remember that one? Remember that one, Ian? The battle in Seattle, 1999?
Quickly, tell me.
The World Trade Organization protests. Leftists were upset about the U.S. cutting deals, much like the Trans-Pacific Partnership. What ends up happening is the CEO of a big company and its shareholders say, we can increase our profit margins by 10% if we outsource the jobs to Mexico, where we don't got to pay healthcare benefits. The American workers get fired. We make a bigger profit. It makes the rich richer and the middle class poor. The left was protesting this. Today, they're protesting against Trump's. They're protesting for it.
If Trump had run as a Democrat and done these same initiatives, but run and won as a Democrat, would the Democrats be behind him now?
Well, yeah. I actually, there's a thing that we talk about, like if Donald Trump if the Democrats had approached Donald Trump and basically stroked his ego,
he absolutely would have run as a Democrat.
He would have done anything they wanted.
And they would have won.
Yeah.
Democrat 2016 Trump on the same exact platform, because he shared a lot with Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
If he ran this, he was pro-gay marriage. If he ran on that, and Hillary Clinton wasn't, if he ran on that, the Republicans would have had who? Rubio? Jeb Bush?
Yeah, Jeb Bush.
And then he would have won. and the Republicans would have nobody right
It's
now.
a big if because they have superdelegates, and they probably would have been like, Hillary Clinton's our candidate, everyone.
Right. We get that.
But
But we're
it
saying
had
if they approached Trump and said, but that was the problem. Hillary Clinton, it was her turn. Trump's only move was as a Republican, also because of the sentiment of Occupy and Trump being a billionaire. With Bernie Sanders as a left populist, no populist is going to elect a billionaire. On the right, however, the right populists were like, Trump's right. He knows how the machine works. It's benefited him. He's going to fight for us. The left just says millionaires and billionaires are bad.
It's interesting to think if he had run as a Democrat and they groomed him to be a Democrat, if he would have just become evil, like become part of that machine. But they didn't get to him early
very
enough.
much the same. He's not changed. If you look at him over the decades, he's not changed a lot about anything.
Could you imagine Trump today, like if it was inverted? In 2016 he runs and he's going, I just think sometimes a man is a lady. Sometimes a lady is a man.
Thinking a lot about it.
He literally, I just retweeted. He was making remarks from I forget where he was, but he was making remarks specifically saying, "You'll never be a woman if you're a man. It doesn't matter how many operations you get." I just retweeted that just before the show started.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.